Mastermind Sessions by the Escano Brothers, the #1 content creator duo for the world's leading millennial influencers and brands, with work featured in Forbes, Entrepreneur, and Inc. magazine. This is the meeting for the purpose-driven, making moves in entrepreneurship, creating lifestyle, and shaping culture. Come through and vibe.
Welcome to another episode of Mastermind Sessions. Maddie on the mic. This is a 2-part series and a very, very powerful series because we have one of the most influential millennials of our generation and someone that a lot of people can look up to and someone that we call a close friend as well. So in today's episode, we have Gerard Adams.
Yo, Macard on the mic. Now, if you haven't heard of Gerard Adams and you're a millennial, then there's something definitely wrong because this guy has built one of the biggest millennial publications called EliteDaily.com. He sold that for $50 million and is now on a huge mission to impact the millennial generation. Now, you and I, dude, we're pretty blessed to travel to Dubai with him, hang out and do some work and collaborate and really get to know him on a personal level. What his vision is for himself, for his businesses, and for the wider impact that he wants to make moving forward. So we had a really dope conversation. I know it's been a while since we've caught up, but it was just an amazing experience just to get to know where he is right now and where he's heading. We made great reference to one of the most iconic basketballers of all time, Kobe Bryant, and the way he's transitioned to his next career, being an entrepreneur and focusing on the power of stories. Now, Gerard is a great example and a real testament of one of the ultimate storytellers. And through this interview, it was a great opportunity to get to know more of his background. We delve a bit deeper into who he is, how he's developed his passion for entrepreneurship, and how you can learn from his biggest lessons from his 15-year entrepreneurship career. So Maddie and I have learned a ton. We hope you guys learn a ton and looking forward to you guys creating your own story as well.
So this 2-part series is going to start on December 20th. And December 20th is actually a special day because it's Gerard's birthday. And so we're dedicating these 2 episodes for, all that he's achieved so far and for all future success. So happy birthday, bro, and shout outs to you, man.
Yeah, for sure, man. We don't only see this guy as, the millennial mentor, but also a really good friend and someone who we truly believe we're going to be building a deeper relationship with, and really grateful for our friendship, the mentorship, and ultimately your impact you make in the world. So let's get into it.
All right, let's get into it.
Yo.
Gerard, my man, how you doing, man?
It's good.
Damn, it's been ages, eh?
Yeah, it's been a while. Holy cow, man. Damn, been a couple years, maybe 3 years, 2-3 years.
Yeah, 2-3 years. Damn, I still remember you up on stage and dominating with Peter.
Bro, honestly, that was one of my favorite trips of all time, bro. It was my first time in Dubai. Leading up to it, I was excited, right? But the story of how I got there is something I'll always remember because I don't know if you remember this, but there was an issue with our flight and my girlfriend and I, we missed it, or something happened with the flight. I don't remember what it was, but anyways, we missed the flight. And I had to make a choice. I was like, man, there's no way I have a speaking engagement, so I have to get there by tomorrow before 12 or nothing. And we couldn't find a flight, and I finally found one, but it was $3,000 a seat. And I was like, damn, I got to spend another 6 bands just to do this. And I was like, you know what? I gave my word to Peter, so I spent the money. That's one part of the story, right? I want to keep my word, and then we did that, right? The next thing is that plane landed. And it was I had literally to the minute to get to that event on time. It was literally I landed and I felt like Batman because one, I had to suit up right there, then and there, in the airport. I get into this dope ass car, me and my girl, I'm suited up. And it was my first time in Dubai, driving through, seeing Dubai out the window. And I just remember listening to Goldcast with on YouTube, with E.T. screaming in my ear, Batman music, and I just remember fuck, man, I can't believe that this is my life. I can't believe that I'm at a point in my life where you know what I'm saying, I'm going across the world to be able to inspire and share my story, like a young kid from Jersey who grew up, you know, doing stupid shit in the hood. Like I was just, like, it was a moment for me that I'll always remember driving down and feeling like Bruce Wayne, you know what I'm saying? And then when I got there, it was like, boom, Peter meets me and we walk right down the middle of the event. And then, you know, the event starts like pretty soon right after. And it was just like, I don't know, man, to me, that was something I'll always cherish. I really got to bond with Peter too on that trip. And then on top of that, like, me and my girl had the time of our life, like just dune bugging through the desert. And, you know, Dubai's a really special place. There's so much cool shit to do. You know, I had the Aventador and the six G-Wagon. Like, it was just like, we balled out and it was fun, man.
I still remember when you guys got there, like, even just looking at you, you were still so composed. I do remember now you had your earphones in and you were just, when you came out of the car, you were just so laser focused in the zone. And I still remember when you guys came in the middle lane and it just looked like this awesome scene just capturing you guys. And I was just like, this is crazy. And I don't know if you remember, but pretty much the whole trip, you and Peter were trying to battle out who was going to be the Batman.
Oh, really? That's
your dynamic duo.
That is funny.
Oh, man. Bro, I must say, man, that was like one of the most incredible experiences of our life. Like developing this passion in your life, developing this craft, and getting to a stage where you're able to travel around, you know, as a content creator, serving some of the most influential people who have such a profound message and helping them catapult that message into the world. You know, that brought us to Dubai, Atlantis The Palm Hotel. But being around such inspirational people, a high caliber type of event, and seeing these two guys, you know, as our mentors and friends, just the vibe we had there was, man. But what that really taught me, and just seeing Gerard and Peter do their thing, you know, speaking in front of a huge crowd, educating, impacting, it really set a vision of where we're headed and how we can contribute to serving these influencers and being behind the scenes where we can get to know these guys on a personal level, have some fun, have a good laugh. It just really made us realize, you know, that we wouldn't trade anything for this type of lifestyle. You know, that all the sacrifice that we've made and seeing them where they're at just sets a real sort of exciting trajectory in terms of where we're headed. What about you, dude? What was your experience from that trip?
Man, I think the whole trip altogether, just the experience of traveling to Dubai, staying at Atlantis with, you know, two of the top speakers and mentors, and doing work for them behind the scenes was unreal, you know, and it's definitely an experience that I'll never forget. And, you know, looking back, it's definitely a memory that is always going to stay with me, because it's one of those experiences that really defined, personally for me, almost like a blueprint to follow with everything that we do, the way that we handle and conduct our business, the way that we approach life, the way that we approach people. And I think really just observing Peter and Gerard and the way that they thought about impacting others and really serving at the highest level, there was that aura, you know, there was that standard that I think you could really feel it at the time. You know, it's something that you and I always talk about, you know, just the trip itself. And I think we try and produce that same kind of energy, that same kind of commitment to everything that we do now with our business and just our life in general. So I think it was a very defining moment for us, and I'm forever grateful for the trip.
You talked about how you're a storyteller nowadays, and you know, I recently watched an interview with, you know, Lewis Howes and Kobe Bryant.
Oh,
and
no.
So yeah, Kobe's transition has been incredible. Obviously, you know, one of the best basketballers of all time, and he basically transitioned like that into a CEO mode, you know, of Kobe Inc. And during that interview, he said, you know, he was in the locker room and the players were like, what are you going to do next? And he was just like you. He's like, I'm a storyteller, you know? And I just thought that was really amazing, because he just really knew exactly who he was and who he was destined to be within his vision. And finishing the NBA wasn't just the end, but it's like the beginning of a new chapter. So I really want to ask you, I really want to get to know, how would you tell them your story of who you are today and what you've been through in terms of your journey?
For me, what I was always good at was creating stories. You know, I've always had this gift of being able to inspire and tell stories. That's why it led me to doing good at marketing. So I was like, how can I use this gift and this passion for storytelling for good? So I started making documentaries around the economy, because I was like, all of our generation is paying attention to the Kardashians and they're paying attention to reality TV and social media, but no one's paying attention to what's truly happening with our economy. We're in the biggest national debt crisis in the history of our country. No one's actually paying attention to this. You know, what's happening to agriculture, what's happening to, you know, the education system. So I started making a documentary called College Conspiracy. I was the first to expose the student loan debt crisis. Got millions of views on YouTube. I loved it. I was talking about, you know, the student loan debt crisis to the dollar and our Federal Reserve. And then that kind of led me to interns around being like, yo, let's start a publication. And that was the first moment where I actually like really got a full taste of what it was like to build a startup, to go from being a solopreneur to now building a team with my two co-founders that were like, I now went from being the mentee to becoming the mentor. And now I was the big brother of these two co-founders that were 18 at the time, 19 at the time. And we ended up creating EliteDaily.com to be the voice of our generation. We felt there was no other publication that was giving a voice to all the millennials, the 80 million of us. We had the New York Times and Huffington Post and, you know, all these other publications that were handed down to us that were written by people that were from the generation before us. But what was the publication of our generation? You know, so we ended up building that to 2,000 contributors that were all millennials, 24 or younger, around the whole world. We ended up building an office of 3 of us with 3 wooden chairs, with like naive, not knowing how we're going to do this, not being journalists, to 200 people in an office, skateboarding, smoking next to Buddhas in our office, and just hustling, man. Everybody smacked the wall walking in that like had our mission had our values, a mission statement, and our goals. And you know, we built an unbelievable culture. And the reason is because everyone believed in the movement of what we're creating more than the money, more than, you know, the cool factor of having a cool startup or any of that. It was the movement that we were actually becoming the voice of Generation Y, and giving people the ability to share their voice, good, bad, whatever it was. And we ended up getting 80 million unique visitors per month. And then in 2015, a dream came true for me, and I couldn't believe it, but we ended up having an acquisition offer from $1 billion media company known as the Daily Mail. And that changed my life, because when that happened, it was like the first time in my life where I really felt, holy shit, we actually did it. Like, we actually built something of value. Like, this is actually really working. And for me, I was like, we're not selling. There's no way we can sell. Like, it's bigger than money. It's a movement. But my co-founders, and we had venture capitalists that threatened us, that threatened me, that sent me letters in the mail saying, if you don't sell, like, it was like kind of like a threat without a threat, saying that basically I was risking getting kicked off the board. I was getting risked. It was being risked. And my co-founders, who I would go for walks with in the park every week to just help them manage the pressure that we were under, because we had 200 people relying on paychecks from us. Like, we had burn going through the roof. We had acquisition offer that, you know, $1 billion company coming and auditing the company. And they were like, gee, we're done, bro. Like, we did it. Like, this may not be the $1 billion exit, but like, yo, this is going to give security to all 200 people that believed in us. And this is going to allow Elite Daily to live on. And what we do from here next could be like even better, right? And I was like, no, we got to, this is our baby. Like, this is going to be the next best media company in the world. Like, but we ended up clashing, and then it came down to the final board meeting. And I remember my co-founders, David and JSP, you know, we cried together. And, you know, I gave a speech in front of the whole board, in front of all the investors on why not to sell. I even raised $5 million single-handedly through my network, through Ryan Blair, a mentor that I got through Elite Daily by writing an article saying that he was one of the top 10 best mentors of all time. And I had Jesus, Gandhi, and Ryan Blair on the list. And with Ryan Blair's help, and another mentor, I was able to raise that $5 million, give a speech on why not to sell, but everyone outvoted me. And rule of thumb, one of my mentors told me that if your co-founders are out, that if you started it together, you should finish it together. And I promised my co-founder, David, who was the CEO, mom that I would always look after him. Because when David and I partnered, his father was in jail. It was Jacob the jeweler. His father was in jail. And I was literally like a father figure in David's life during that time frame of building this company. So I felt it was my duty to also look after him personally. And I felt, so you know what, this is a win, and I voted. And that day changed my life. And I was depressed after. I went through feeling like that was my identity, and I had it. I had this brand that was just giving this voice, and it was the ultimate brand where we won an Emmy. I was able to tell stories through it. So I was like, now what? And, you know, that was the best thing that ever happened to me, because it allowed me to realize what my purpose was. And how no startup is your identity. You know, no business, no brand is your identity. You know, you own your identity. You own your story. You are the leader of your journey. And I started to realize that when I got known that I was getting, you know, all this millions of dollars wired to my bank account, and my account was like moved to Florida, I was on the balcony of a penthouse in Florida with ocean views. And I remember saying to myself, this can't be it. This can't be it. And I remember the moment of having those millions of dollars that when I was in my young 20s and it all being stripped from me. And I was like, this time it's not going to happen. This time I'm going to be smarter, and I'm going to focus on being a real leader. The world needs real role models. So I was like, fuck being in Florida. I'm going to go back to Newark, New Jersey, where it's now complete poverty. And I'm going to be part of creating a movement of showing what it means to be a leader. If you make it, you know what I'm saying? Like, you need to be able to go back and help those that are not in the position of you, that don't have the resources to help them, inspire them, show them that they, you know, people need to see it to believe it. You know, growing up, I didn't have as a kid a role model of a multimillionaire driving down the block with an exotic car, or like, you know, or someone who came and was a public speaker in my high school to tell us how he made it as a leader in the world. Like, we didn't have that growing up. So I was like, we need to be doing that as leaders. So I went back to Newark. I started a social enterprise known as Founders to help aspiring entrepreneurs and to help educate inner city youth through the principles of entrepreneurship, emotional intelligence, and financial literacy. And I dedicated to helping build some real estate in the area, an incubator, and going inside these inner city schools to help these kids and build a platform where entrepreneurs can sign up and meet each other all over the world and have meetups all over the world and learn and get education from it. So I just did that. And then from there, my story leads to what I'm doing now. And then which we can get into, which is, you know, me realizing like, okay, I'm at the place now where, you know, I feel my core purpose is I really genuinely want to help support, co-create, inspire the you know, world-class leaders that are in the world, and help them to be able to do everything in the right order. Because I feel they genuinely have a passion for telling their story. They genuinely want to build a brand and they want to make impact in the world. But how do you actually do that in the right way? That's actually going to be sustainable. That's actually going to empower you. That's going to fill your cup so that you can then go do the work that you want to do in the world.
Man, I think this part, what Gerard is saying, is so important, man. Especially listening to someone who has years of experience in entrepreneurship under his belt. Him, along with Yahya Bakar, together have invested $500,000 in their personal and professional development, and learning from these people who have had the experience and learning from their mistakes. Like, they've already made them. Why make the same mistakes? We can just invest into them and learning firsthand what is the right way to do it. As you were saying before, dude, it's really just a blueprint, you know? So I love what Gerard is sharing right here, and this new business model that he's put together with Yahya, because they've put together this blueprint, this step-by-step process in order to build up your personal brand and tell your story and impact in the most strategic way. So there's huge lessons in this for us. How do you think it impacted you, bro?
Yeah, Gerard and Yahya are definitely one of the top speakers in the world. And I think the one thing that really sticks out to me with how they're trying to help others amplify their message is doing it in a very strategic way, you know. And it's like what Gerard said, there's a lot of people who genuinely want to share their message, who genuinely want to tell their story and impact others. But there's a formula and there's a way to do it the right way. It can only impact people so much just from speaking from the heart. But having a proven step-by-step formula of how to do that from speaking and sharing your experiences, sharing your narrative, and how that's tied into your success really maximizes your story to the fullest.
And that led me to deciding to partner with someone in as Yaya Bakar, who I hired as my public speaking coach because I want to be a more powerful speaker. And together we co-created something called World-Class Leaders to support, experienced entrepreneurs, people who have earned it, who have done the work and now want to make impact in the world. They want to build their network. They want to be surrounded with other leaders. They want to make more impact in the world, but they want to do it in the way that they take care of themselves. They can actually monetize and have purpose and profit and do it in a way that's respectable. And then for me, the goal is through supporting them is to be a part of this collective of global leaders and see what we can innovate together and take it to what can we actually through innovation create and do in the world. And for me, that's education, but there could be, for me, it could be supporting other leaders that are part of this collective that care about Earth and care about supporting the environment. It could be medicine, it could be cancer, it could be space, it could be, how do we use artificial intelligence for good? It could be consciousness. How do we actually create a movement around consciousness, create technology around consciousness? So that's what I'm excited about down the road.
Bro, that was absolutely incredible, man. I always feel very, very humbled and privileged to be sitting at this table, just looking around and seeing Mother Teresa and Mandela, yourself, and Alan Watts, and everyone. This is incredible, dude. It really gives a great visual for our audience to really see that real perspective. I love how wide you think in terms of the diversity of different types of leaders, time frames, in history of where they've came and made the impact, and going as wide to as close as your ancestry, your bloodline. Having, your grandfather and your grandmother to your mother and your father, and, passing that through to generations and generations. I think you have such a very unique mix of, I think, your view on the world and also, more importantly, your purpose. I really love it in terms of you sharing your story over time, from the very moment, through childhood and going through that through teenagehood. Thank you so much as well, being so open and sharing the adversities of growing up, because not all the time that's been shared. And I think it's through people's adversities where we can really connect with other people and see that, that growth.
And vulnerability. I think that when you think about true authority or true influence or true leadership, it really, you recognize that both in a business setting with your team as well as a personal brand in the world, vulnerability is the golden key that unlocks the heart, in my opinion, because we can all relate to the stories of of obstacles and struggle. We all understand struggle, and it's so many of us suppress the vulnerability of what has actually happened to us and how we've actually felt and what has actually affected us and who we become. And the moment that you can unlock that for yourself, not for anybody else, but for yourself, and have the confidence and courage to share it, you start to realize, wow, I'm truly unstoppable. No one can stop me. I've now let out what has happened to me. I've let out my struggle. I've let out my pain. And that's where the true healing happens. And then that's when you become relatable. You become someone of real influence, not followers, but real influence, in my honest opinion. So I think it took me a long time to get there, but that's a key to building, to building a brand and a key to being a world-class leader.
It's crazy how much you can learn from someone's story, being educated through context. And Gerard has one of the most powerful stories, as we pretty much heard. And so that pretty much wraps up our first episode with him. And coming up next in our next episode is where Gerard actually delves deeper into the map, what it takes to become a real world-class leader, and how to build up your brand in a strategic kind of way that makes real impact, that's really sustainable, and takes care of not only yourself, but the people that are around you. Stay tuned, and we'll catch you guys on the next episode. Our call to action for this episode is:
how can you fully maximize your story to impact others?
are you ready to take action?